and excellent organs. And just to keep this up, Lea, do you have a first Cronenberg experience you remember? First film that you saw, his that you saw?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few. History of Violence. That is like a really, really great film with a great performance.
Is that the first one?
I don't think so. I've seen Crash. I've seen many of his films, but yeah, you have. I mean, he has a very unique style, and it's. I mean, they are always very interesting, and as you said, layered and profound. And for me, David is a real artist. He's not only a filmmaker, and he's also a poet. And it's each film that I've seen from him are an experience. It's an intense experience.
Yeah, full body experience. Yeah.
Exactly.
And Scott?
Yeah, when I was a kid, The Dead Zone was on TV all the time, and I watched that way too young, over and over and over and over again. And yeah, it was Christopher Walken at the end shoots. Did they turn off my mic? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying what the movie plot was.
In the movie.
It's in the movie.
Do you remember the guy? In the tub with the scissors?
I remember some kid falling through the ice that
Yes,
freaked me out, and then shooting of the president.
These are memorable events.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about each of your characters and these roles and what attracted you to them. I mean, Scott, we can stick with you.
Sure.
I mean, your character's really interesting because he's sort of an avant-garde artist in a way, but he wants to take it to another level. Like, he thinks that Soul is not extreme enough in a way. I mean, how did you find your way into that character?
I mean, it took some time, for sure. I mean, you know, I was thrilled to get an offer to be in a David Cronenberg movie, and then you read the script, and it's this weird part you don't fully understand at first, and he's the leader of this movement of the plastic eaters, and you try to get your head around that, and you keep boiling it down until you understand it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you find something active to go with, and you just get in there and just throw it against the wall and see what sticks. But I had a blast with this part. It's a dark part. I mean, you saw it's a weird part where the beginning of the movie where the kid dies, and that's kind of sets up the whole movie. But I actually had a lot of fun playing this role.
Yeah. And Viggo, you're kind of the central artist. You're almost like the elder of the artist scene. I love how this movie has a kind of art world, and you're a star of this art world. I mean, what attracted you to this role? And I mean, besides, of course, working with David Ian.
Well, I mean, when I first read it, what I thought, and I said to David, it's a classic film noir story. It's really great. It's like everybody kind of loses in something, in some way, either dies or gives up something, loses. There's a blurred area with who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, including my character. Lang, the character that Scott plays at first, he seems like he's pushy and he wants this thing, and is he a bad guy? And then you realize he's actually ahead of the curve, even ahead of Lea and my characters. He knows something that we don't realize. It takes us a long time to realize. I love that aspect, the intrigue, the film noir aspect of it, and I really, really liked the unusual love story in there. I mean, we're partners creatively as artists, and we're seen as a threat, I guess, by the authorities because we're a threat to their controlling social norms and information that people might get. Oh, we're evolving, or things are happening. And what Lang knows even better than we do. And they're trying to, use Well, it's also in that classic film noir thing where even though we're very open with each other, Lea's character and mine, as you've seen in the movie, I do keep something very important from her, that I'm working another side. And even why is he doing that? There's mixed reasons, you know. I mean, there's something very human about the character I played, which I like, is that he's kind of insecure in some ways. He's jealous of other artists. He's very competitive with them. He's even kind of resistant when Lea says, well, I want to try something different. I'm like, well, why? It's like working. You can see that in any relationship where there's a change and you either adapt and overcome, or a relationship starts to not work, and that happens to everybody. And I liked all those aspects. He had so many things going at once, so that it's a movie you can see, and when you see it again, you see more things, you know, again.
Yeah, I really love what you do with your voice in it as well. This becomes this kind of running thing that you have a little thing going on.
Yeah, I had a lot of physical problems. So in the movie, I couldn't eat, I couldn't really breathe very well, swallow, sit still, lie down, stand up. You know, but it was a weird journey just trying to figure out what to do with that, you know. You don't want to do too much because then it becomes kind of a clown act where it distracts from everything else. And if you do too little, it's like, well, if he's in such discomfort, I'm not really seeing it or hearing it. So,
Yeah.
But David sort of helped me with that.
Yeah. And Lea, Caprice is she almost seems like she's a kind of stability in a way. I mean, she kind of runs the show, but she has her own ambitions. And I think that's really interesting also in the context of this relationship that she kind of wants to spotlight a little. Could you talk about what attracted you to this role?
Yes, so what attracted me is, I think, the love story as well, and the tenderness of their relationship. And also what I related to is that she's very committed to her art, and she really believes in art. And I see the movie as a metaphor about like what it is to be an artist. And I thought that was beautiful. She stands for that.
Yeah, yeah. I also have to ask about the organs. I mean, or just more broadly, like working with kind of special effects, and you know, how much is with you in the room at the time, and how much is added later, and how you work with that just as actors. So I wonder if we could just talk a bit about that. Viggo, like the breakfast chair, for example, which is an interesting Christmas item to get at some point. But I mean, how do you kind of work with that? You know.
It didn't work as well as it was supposed to.
Okay.
And they made it sort of work in post-production a little better. Some days it was temperamental, that breakfast chair. Sometimes it worked really well, and other times it didn't work at all, you know, in very crucial moments. It was kind of frustrating, to be honest. But so they would say, oh, it's not working. Breakfast chair is not in a good mood this morning, so you'll have to pretend you have to do some good moments, as did the actor who was playing Dr. Nassatir. He had to do a little extra work. But a lot of other things did, and the production designer that is the one that David's been working with for years, Carol Spear, who's a genius. She created the orchid bed, which is what you see me in the beginning, where they have those tentacles attached to my hands and feet. What I sleep in, and Lea comes to wake me up. That was actually comfortable and really kind of cool. And the sark, you know, the autopsy thing that's been converted for our performances, that was very comfortable. And that kind of worked, some of it, but some of it didn't. Some of it had to be puppeteered, you know, rods that they removed in post-production digitally. So it was kind of a mixture. It was very much like, you know, experimental indie movie kind of, we'll just make it work, you know. And what's great about David is he doesn't get flustered by any of that. He's like, we'll work it out, don't worry, you know. And working with him, I have to say, it's like you're working with a guy, even though he's 79, almost 80. It feels like each time I've worked with him, and on this one even more because it was a tighter shoot and everything, and you know, things didn't work and sometimes it did and all that. It was like working with a guy who just got out of film school, who's the brightest guy who came out of the film school in terms of his enthusiasm. He's like, we're making this movie and it's gonna be fine. And he's just excited to do it. And that's really contagious. You know, he makes everybody feel like it's gonna work out. It's great we're here. And then like, well, you're not shooting in Toronto, you're shooting in Greece. Okay. It's 112 degrees out. Sure. There's forest fires everywhere. There's smoke in the air. Okay. The breakfast chair is not going to work today. Fine. You know, it's like everything's okay. You know, that's what he makes you feel. It's very exciting. It's very rare for a director to have been around for decades and be one of the great, you know, in the pantheon of great international directors and have that attitude.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to add anything, either of you, about you know, working with the set and these exotic items that are around you. I mean, that must be sort of inspiring, just to have that to work against in a way.
I mean, for me, yeah, it was great to have some of it there, but of course, some of it was not there, and you're just making it up in your head and trusting that, you know, David's not going to leave you hanging. But yeah, we had enough to sort of jump off the cliff and go for it. But I, you know, for my role in the movie, you know, I'm one of the only ones that doesn't really engage in all the fun surgery stuff.
Well, you have the candy.
You got your Willy Wonka.
I got my Willy Wonka candy bars. Those were cool. 400 of those. That was fun. But other than that, no. We didn't CGI those, unfortunately.
Was it good?
No, they were not good.
Terrible granola bars, actually.
Play-Doh with sugar.
It was like a whey protein berry mix. I said no sugar, and they didn't listen. But you know, whatever.
How many did you?
I had a fair amount. But it was all right.
Can we see you like with gusto?
Well, yeah. That was one of the early takes.
Well, I want to make sure we get some questions from the audience. So
That was pretty disturbing, but it helped me.
Yeah, your reaction was amazing. That surprised me when you reacted that way. I mean, it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's true. I had a very strong reaction. I remember when we shot the scene. It was no, it was just like possessed, and it happens sometimes on set. I mean, it's the way I am, but I feel that that I can reach something that is sacred, and yeah, I was completely like it was almost like a trance. A trance. I was in a state of shock, but you can tell, no?
Yeah, but that really helped the scene. It needed it in a way. You just don't know until you get there.
question, maybe in the center here, third row.
Hi, wonderful movie, adored it. I noticed that there's just a brilliant sense of comedy in certain scenes. How did you use your performances to help shift the tone, I guess, in certain scenes?
How did we use performances to shift the tone?
Did David tell you, like, this scene is perhaps a bit more comedically toned than the other one, and sort of shift accordingly, I suppose?
He doesn't really talk in
Yeah,
terms of
he barely
concepts.
talked to me.
But he doesn't talk in terms of concepts. I mean, he doesn't rehearse, he doesn't do storyboards, which is tough sometimes for the production designer because they have to always plan the set 360 degrees because he gets there and goes, well, let's see what the actors do. And then he watches that and he's, okay, we're going to do this, that, that. And so you kind of have to be ready for anything with him. And as actors, you have to be ready and prepared because you're probably going to get maybe one or two takes and then he'll be happy and move on. He's kind of like a real artist in that sense, like going for it. And he'll embrace like something that feels to you like an error sometimes because he sees it as really working. I mean, he's very attentive, and he'll answer any question you have, but he didn't talk to us about concepts, about tone. There were just certain lines, certain things you could read in the script that they were kind of funny in a particular way. And then situations, and then you never know how, it's great, like when the other actors, you don't know how people are gonna do things. Like when I started working with Lea, we had this connection and it really felt right, you know. When Scott showed up as the character, it was like, wow, he's really intense, he's really committed to this idea that his character has. And I was like, why is he so intense? And you realize it by the end, that he's got a reason to be. And then Timlin, you know, Kristen Stewart's character is like, wow, what's that? You know? And it was perfect, it was great. And then her colleague, Don McKellar, who's an old hand, you know, knows and has worked with David before, he was like perfect as Whippet and very funny to me. I mean, both of those characters I laughed a lot. I mean, I don't know if you guys laughed at all during the screening, but at Cannes, I think they were like, oh, it's Cannes, it's serious, it's not. So there was a little, we were laughing, chuckling away, sitting there, but the audience was kind of a little more serious. They laughed once or twice, but that was it. And I thought a lot of it was funny. But it's not like David said, okay, now today we're gonna do something that's supposed to be funny, or it's supposed to be sad, or he doesn't do that. He just figures he cast the right people, and then he sets them loose, and let's see what they do.
No, I mean, sometimes you get in the same scene, like, you know, where Kristen Stewart's, after one of Soul's performances, Kristen Stewart comes up and basically flirts with you, more or less, and then Caprice is like, what was that all about? So it's kind of flips it. Another question here in the first row. Yeah.
Question for Viggo. I'm curious, after having worked with Cronenberg twice before on more traditional films, on more traditional films, what was your experience working on more of the body horror cinema that Cronenberg's no longer for?
I didn't feel it was different. I was just trying to play my character and contribute to the storytelling. His approach was the same. If you wanted to know something, you probably had to ask him, because it wasn't like he was going to tell you. And, you know, in the other movies, there were moments, there would be something to do with the body or some kind of very direct, blunt thing, you know, visually. History of Violence, certainly there were some moments like that, and Eastern Promises too, but it's true that there is more imagery that's reminiscent of his earlier period. It's true. But I didn't feel different. I didn't think of it as a different kind of, I just thought it was a different story, just like each of the 4 times. It's a different story, and he's focusing on what needs to be done here. He's not self-referential. He doesn't copy shots from before. He's not trying to maintain an image of, you know, this is a Cronenberg moment or something. He doesn't refer to genre or think of that. He doesn't think of things as shocking or horror, you know, they're not gratuitous things. They're just things that move the story forward for him. And so you're just trying to keep up with that, really, as an actor. And I felt like that on each of the movies. Each of them, all 4 of them are quite different. So, but I wasn't thinking while we were working. I don't remember thinking, oh, this is cool. I'm doing something like he used to do in the 80s or something. I didn't think that.
I think we have time for one more question, right? Maybe we'll go further in the back there. Just, I don't know, far on the left there. Highest, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's a pretty simplistic question, but I just wanted to ask, how was like the textured chair? Was it like a hard plastic?
It's important breakfast. She's ordering it.
Just so everyone heard the question, what was the texture of the chair?
It was stiff. It was stiff. And when it was working, these little sort of bone things did like whip their head around. And it moved up and down and sideways. It was like, made this funny noise. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. I actually saw them building it. First, it has this sort of steel steel base, and then they started adding this sort of bone-like stuff to it. It was unique. Well, it's not like I would sort of say, oh, I've got the Sunday paper. And I wouldn't choose to sit in it, but I imagine David will keep it and have it in his house for his collection.
Follow-up question is, the squishy little console, is that squishy? It looks sort of squishy, that you use to control the surgery. It's definitely squishy.
Yes, it's soft and, yeah.
Okay.
It felt like when you had a small brain or something.
Small brain. Well, I think that's a good note to wrap up on. Thank all of you so much.
Thank you.
We hope that was helpful.